If there is one commandment that troubles kings, governments, and systems of power, it is the Sabbath. Throughout history, men and women who dared to defend it faced ridicule, exclusion, and even brutal persecution. Today, in the 21st century, talking about the holiness of the Sabbath still causes discomfort, and the signs that it will become the center of a global conflict are already before us. But the big question is, why does a simple day of rest have the power to arouse so much fury and persecution in the world? The Sabbath was never just a day of rest. In God's Word, it is presented as a profound sign of the covenant between the Creator and His people. In Exodus 31 verse 13, the Lord declares, "You are to keep my Sabbaths, for the Sabbath is a sign between me and you for all generations, so you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you." Notice, the Sabbath points not only to physical rest, but to the sanctification and spiritual identity of God's people. Keeping the Sabbath is recognizing the sovereignty of the Creator and declaring before the world to whom we belong. And when we come to the pages of Revelation, the Sabbath connects directly with the message of the end times. In Revelation 14 verse 12, we read, "Here is the patience of the saints, here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus." In other words, the Sabbath becomes a mark of faithfulness in the midst of the greatest conflict in history. It is not just a ceremonial detail, but a visible sign of those who stand firm to God's law, even when the whole world follows another path. Persecution against Sabbath keepers is not a recent phenomenon. From the earliest centuries, Christians who remained faithful to the fourth commandment were marginalized, ridiculed, and in many cases brutally persecuted. When religious power, allied with political power, imposed Sunday as a day of worship, those who refused to abandon the Sabbath were seen as rebels, as opponents of the established order. Many lost their land, their freedom, and even their lives simply for refusing to give in. This pattern has been repeated throughout history. Whenever the Sabbath has been defended, it has provoked resistance. And this shows us something clear: the conflict surrounding this commandment is spiritual, but also deeply human, because it exposes the choices between God's will and the interests of the world. And if this happened in the past, imagine when the prophecies of Revelation 13 are fully fulfilled, and the whole world is called to choose between God's truth and the pressure of the global system. If you want to continue understanding why the Sabbath is at the center of this great conflict and how it affects your life today, subscribe now, like and share this video. That way, the message of truth will reach even more people who need to hear this prophetic warning. The Sabbath is not only disturbing because it is different. It is disturbing because it directly contradicts the logic of the modern world. We live in a society driven by consumption, profit, and relentless production. The Sabbath, by its very nature, challenges this system by reminding us that there is a Creator above the marketplace, politics, and human interests. Furthermore, the Sabbath is not just a separate day, it is a constant reminder that God is sovereign over time and life. Keeping the Sabbath is, in other words, recognizing that neither governments, religious leaders, nor institutions have the authority to change the law of the Most High. That is why it becomes so uncomfortable. The Sabbath exposes the rebellion of the human heart and denounces systems that try to take God's place. It shows that man cannot redefine divine truth. What's more, when we look at history, we see that Sunday was established as an alternative precisely to replace the Sabbath. Thus, defending Sabbath-keeping is inevitably raising a banner against the dominant system. Therefore, we can clearly state, the Sabbath is not just a different day, but a direct threat to the dominance of those who desire absolute control over faith, the economy, and even human conscience. In our day, it is increasingly evident that the Sabbath is becoming a point of conflict for modern society. In many places, we see religious and political leaders promoting the idea of a common day of rest, often pointing to Sunday as the solution to social, family, and even environmental problems. This movement is being presented as something positive, but it hides a troubling reality. Keeping the Sabbath is now seen as strange, outdated, or even an act of rebellion against the established order. In addition, pressure from the job market, fast-paced culture, and secularism makes keeping the Sabbath increasingly difficult. Many young people face obstacles in schools and universities, while workers lose jobs or opportunities for refusing to break this commandment. We are living in a time when, in subtle ways, the Sabbath is being isolated, and those who keep it are increasingly marginalized. What once seemed like a religious choice is now beginning to be treated as a challenge to the global system that is forming before us. And here is an important reflection: if the pressure is already so great today, what will it be like when prophecy announces that the whole world will be called to choose between God's truth and human demands? I want to hear your opinion. Have you ever faced difficulties for keeping the Sabbath? Tell us about your experience in the comments, because your testimony can strengthen others who are going through the same struggle. In times of growing opposition, it is inspiring to look to those who, even under pressure, are not ashamed to defend God's faith and principles. Recently, the world lost the voice of Charlie Kirk, a young leader known for speaking courageously about biblical values and Christian principles, including the importance of keeping the faith alive even in the midst of adversity. While his death is not directly related to Sabbath-keeping, his life serves as a powerful reminder: those who raise their voices for truth will face resistance, but they will also leave a legacy of courage and faithfulness. For those of us who keep the Sabbath, examples like Charlie's reinforce that standing firm in the faith is not just a personal choice, it is an act of witness in the midst of a world that tries to silence the truth. He teaches us that speaking and living according to God's word requires courage, but it also inspires others to stand firm when the pressure mounts. The Bible warns us that in the last days, the whole world will be called upon to make a definitive choice between God's truth and the human system. In Revelation 13, we see the union between religious and political power, which seeks to impose rules and demand worship according to the will of man. It is in this context that Sabbath-keeping will become a global test of faithfulness. The Sabbath will not be just a routine detail, it will be the point that defines who is truly loyal to God. Those who remain steadfast, even in the face of pressure and marginalization, will be distinguished as the faithful remnant, the group that does not bow down to the power of the world. Today, we already see signs of this tension forming. Laws that pressure religious freedom, the advance of secularization, and the imposition of norms contrary to faith make Sabbath-keeping increasingly challenging. This confirms that prophecy is not just symbolic, it is being fulfilled before our eyes, gradually, preparing the ground for humanity's final test. In light of all we have seen, it is clear that Sabbath-keeping is not just a tradition, it is a decision that defines destinies. Every choice we make, every moment we remain faithful to God's commandments, is a declaration of loyalty in the midst of a world that often despises the truth. The final test will not only be about theoretical beliefs, but about concrete actions: keeping the Sabbath, maintaining faith, and living according to God's word, even when it causes discomfort, opposition, or even persecution. This decision is personal, but it has eternal consequences. We cannot ignore that every small act of faithfulness today prepares us for the greater challenges that will come tomorrow. Faithfulness is not only resisting external pressure, but also strengthening the heart to remain steadfast, even when everyone around us chooses another path. It is at this moment that it is revealed who truly trusts God, who is willing to stand firm, and who allows the pressure of the world to shake their faith. Keeping the Sabbath is not just a matter of routine or tradition. It is a sign of faithfulness, a milestone that defines who truly belongs to God in times of crisis and pressure. History shows that those who remain faithful have always faced opposition, and the Bible reveals that this will intensify until it reaches a global scale. Every act of obedience, every moment you choose to honor the Sabbath, is a statement against the system that seeks to silence the truth. It is a reminder that God will not abandon his people, and that faithfulness will be rewarded even in the face of persecution. Today, the signs are clear: the world looks down on those who keep the Sabbath, and the pressure increases every day. But God's promise remains: he sustains and protects the faithful, even in the darkest times. May each person watching this video reflect: are you willing to stand firm, to honor the Sabbath, and to live according to God's truth, even when the whole world is against you? The Sabbath is more than a day. It is a silent battle, a prophetic seal that reveals who truly follows the Creator. May your decision today be one of faithfulness, courage, and total trust in the Lord, because those who stand firm will never be alone in the face of adversity. If this video has brought clarity about the importance of the Sabbath and the persecution we may face for remaining faithful, don't just be a spectator. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any prophetic content that will prepare you for the end times. Leave your like to strengthen this message and help others know the truth. Comment below with your opinion or experience with Sabbath keeping. Your voice can inspire and encourage others who are facing similar challenges. Share this video with friends and family who need to understand the importance of this commandment and the signs of the times. Remember, faithfulness to the Sabbath is not just a personal choice, it is a prophetic testimony that can impact lives and strengthen the faithful remnant. Don't remain silent. Raise your voice, stand firm, and be among those who honor God's truth today and always.